Hello guys, today I'm making a tutorial on how we can build this name API application using React. So essentially you put in a name, click fetch, it redirects you to the second page, gives you some information based on that name, and yeah, pretty simple. I wanted to make this tutorial so people who are learning React have a little project that they can build. I've been learning React for a little while now, maybe like over a month, and I found that it's hard to find little projects to work on, so I wanted to share this with you guys. Alright, so first thing we're going to want to do is open up our terminal, and I'm going to move to my documents folder and then move to my dev folder. Doesn't matter where you guys want to create your app in, but I like making it here. So next we're going to do npx create react app, and we'll just give this a name. So I'm going to call it name probability, if I can spell it. Alright, just hit enter, give that a minute. Alright, so hopefully you guys are able to do that without any problems. Next thing we're going to do is just go inside of that new folder we just created real quickly. And now we can open it in Visual Studio. Alright, so now that we're inside our folder, we can see everything's in here. I just want to do a quick test to make sure everything's working correctly. So we can just go ahead and do npm start. Alright, awesome. So that should have navigated you to the localhost address and pulled up your React application. Cool, awesome. So now you have that on the side. Just gonna leave that there for us. Cool. Alright. So next thing I like to do is just go ahead and delete everything in the source folder. I'm just gonna make everything from scratch because we don't need a lot of this. So just gonna delete. Alright, so inside our source folder, we're just gonna make a new file, the app.js file, and then we're going to import React from React. And then we can export the default function app, and then we'll just return div for now. Cool. And next thing we need to do is make our index.js file. So we can also just new file in the source, call it index.js. And in this folder, we're going to need to import React from React as well. And then we're going to need to import our app so we can actually render it. So import our app from /app. Right. And now we're going to do, we need to import React DOM as well. Import React DOM. This is going to allow us to actually render our app. Render. Alright. So first parameter is going to be what we actually want to render. So just going to render the app. And then we need to specify where we actually are going to render it. So it's going to be document.getElement ID root. Alright, awesome. So that should be everything we need for there for now. And now we're going to make a new folder in our source. We call it components. Components. Alright. And then we're going to make a new file, just call it main.js. Awesome. So, okay, once again, import React from React. We're going to export a default function, main. This is just getting everything set up for us right now. We'll actually start working on the app once this is all taken care of. And we'll just return a div again. And then this time we'll just say hello, so we can make sure that's working. So now we have our main taken care of. We can head back to our app and import main from components/main. Now we've imported our main file into our app. So now we can actually render main in the app as well. All right, and if we click save, you see we have a hello now, so that's awesome. It's exactly what we needed. So first thing I'm going to want to work on is actually fetching the data from our APIs. So let me show you guys the APIs we're going to be using first. All right, so here's one of the, let me just make this a little bigger. So here's one of the APIs what we're going to be using. We're going to be using all three of these in total, but they're all pretty much the same. So as you can see, we can do a test one and see just get some JSON with just some text. So if we have the name, the gender, probability, the count, depending on what the name is. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, so that's what we're gonna be using. I'm gonna start with the Ageify one. So I'm just gonna copy that link right there. And then I'm actually gonna make sure we can get the data that we need. So let's go back to main. And inside of our function, I'm gonna make another function. And I'm gonna call it fetch age. We'll do the arrow function for this. And we're going to have a URL, so just let URL equal the link, and we're just going to use Michael for now, but eventually we'll take our own input for this. And now we're going to want to fetch from that URL, and then we can .then get our response, and response.json. Then we're going to get our data, and we're going to console.log the data. Right. Okay, so now that we have this function fetch age, what we're going to want to do is just call it real quick to verify it's working. So I'm going to call it right here, hit save, and an inspect element, console, and we have this object here that's logged to the console, and it has the information. So we've got the age, the count, and the name, which is Michael. So cool, that's everything we were looking for there. Oops. Okay, cool. Yeah, so moving along, I'm just gonna get our main page set up a bit more so we can actually do some stuff with it. Now we're going to want to use a CSS framework called Bulma, just to help make styling easier because no one likes styling. So just gonna go to Bulma here, go to docs. I'll have a link for this in the description as well for you guys. Go to this getting started page, and we're going to be linking through HTML. So I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to go to public index.html, and we're just going to put this in right here. Cool. So this will give us some easier styling to work with here. All right, so we're going to want to use emit abbreviations here. So we're just going to go to File, Preferences, and Settings, and then Extensions, and then emit. And then I already have it added right here, but basically you're just going to type JavaScript, and then JavaScript React right here. Just click OK. So that's going to allow us to have an easier time when writing this CSS. Or styling, sorry. So first thing I'm going to do is just write a has text centered. I'm going to delete this here. All right, and then we're going to have a title, and we'll just call it name API. Let me pull this back up so we can see what we're doing here. Name API. Cool. Got some centered text right there. And now I'm going to make a subtitle. So subtitle, and then call it return predicted information. Cool. All right, next thing I'm gonna do is just make a section here, because we're gonna have some different information or different elements that we don't want to be right on top of this. So this is going to be our input box. So I'm just going to write input, and then give this a class name of input, and the type is going to be text. Oh my goodness, I cannot type. A placeholder which would be equal to return predicted information. Awesome. So next thing we're going to want to do is add a button. So I'm just going to go down here, make another section, and inside the section we're going to make a button, and I'm going to just write it out here. So button, and then the class name be equal to button, and then we make it half width, and then has text centered. Oh, I forgot to end the button. Oh yeah, then we need to, yeah, we got our button. Can I scroll over? There we go. Just call it fetch. All right, cool. So I apologize, I'm not the best with styling elements, but as long as it works, that's cool. I'm gonna change this to a block, actually. There we go. Awesome. So nothing actually happens yet. That's okay. We got the page set up pretty much how we want. So next thing that we're gonna do is keep track of the input that they have in the text box. So we wanna know if they're typing Bob. We wanna be able to print that out and know like, oh, okay, he's typing Bob. So we're gonna make a state variable. So I'm gonna come up to the top here and import use state from React, and then we're gonna make const, and then we're gonna call it current input, and then set current input which equals use states. And we're gonna start it as empty string. All right, awesome. So now our value for our text box, we're gonna want to set that equal to what our current input is. So this will update based off of what our current input is. And the value is what's actually within the in here. So if I save it, it's not gonna let me type because our value is not changing with our current input. So we need a way to keep track of, or we need a way to change our current input. So we can add this parameter called onChange equals, and then curly brace, and then we have our event e, and then we're going to set the current input to the e.target.value, and then we're going to trim it off for the spaces. Okay, so this should change our input, or change our input and then change the value based off the input. So we can type hello, my name, and you won't be able to type spaces, which is good because the API is not going to work with spaces anyway. So, and you're not going to be typing a name with, last name, it's just first names for this. If you want to type spaces, you can just take off the trim, whatever you want. But for this tutorial, we're just going to leave that on. All right, so making some good progress here. Next thing that we're going to want to do is actually change this name here to whatever we actually have typed in. So if we type Bob, we want it to fetch from, Bob, obviously, and not Michael. So how can we do that? Well, now we have this variable current input, so we can reference it in the URL. So I'm going to do string concatenation for this. I think that's what that's called. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then, so we're going to use these tildes, I think, back tilde. And then right at name equals, we can input with the money sign, and then we can put the current input. So now, whatever our current input is what will be processed through this URL. So cool. All right. Okay, so now that we've got that working, let's just go ahead and add the functions for fetching everything else. Since we're using 3 different APIs, I'm just going to use 3 different functions to simplify things. So this is our age API, and then we're going to just put this above. Have one for the gender API, and we'll make it a constant fetch gender equals, and then we'll have another URL, URL equal the gender one. So let's go back here, genderize. Alright, so I'm just going to copy this link, put it in here, and I'm going to do the same thing as before. So write at name equals, we're going to put in the current input. Awesome. And then we could just do everything else we need to do here. Then response equals response of JSON. Then the data. And yeah, we'll just log it again, but we're going to change this soon. Okay. Yeah, so before I make that last function, I'm going to actually go back into my app. And in my app, we're going to want to have a way to keep track of the age data, the gender data, and the nationality data globally, because the way we're going to set up this app is we're going to have another page called results. So it's going to navigate the user to results, and results is going to need a way to keep track of that data. So what we can do is turn our data into a prompt and pass that in directly to results. Hopefully that made somewhat kind of sense, but I'm going to explain that as I type it. So we're going to make a new constant. We're going to call it age data. We're going to set the age data, and then we're going to have a use state. Oh dear, states. And then, so since it's an object, we're just gonna make it an empty array here. And then we're gonna have another one for gender data. Set gender data. Oh, gender data. Have the use state, again, empty array. And then we'll have one more. I'm just gonna copy and paste it here. So nat for nationality, and then set that data. All right, awesome. So we have our state variables, and now we need a way to pass these into our main. So I'm gonna come down here, and we're gonna say state, and this part can be whatever you want. You could make this literally anything. It's just gonna be the reference to how we actually access what we're passing in, and we could pass in each thing individually. So we could pass in age data, and do age data equals age data, and then gender data equals gender data. But I don't really want to do that because it's going to take a while to do for setting and getting. So what we can do is actually destructure these components into a single variable that's going to call it state. And then we can just pass in the age data, and then the set age data, and then the gender data, set gender data, and nat data, set nat data. All right, this should be everything that we need here. So now we can actually just pass in this state here. So now we can access everything through the state, which is a lot better. In my opinion, I like doing it this way than having to pass in each component. Alright guys, so now that we're back in our main function, we're going to want to pass in the state object that we just created. Otherwise our main isn't going to be able to have a reference to it. So now that it's passed in, I'm just going to make some variables for our prompt data. Instead of accessing it directly as state.setAgeData, like so, we can just make a reference to it. So I'm going to make a constant. I'm just going to call it setAgeData and set it equal to setAgeData. And then just do the same thing for everything. And we're only going to need the setters in our main, and then we use the getters in our results page that we make later on. So don't need to pass those in here. Set const set at data be equal to state dot set at data. All right, awesome. So now that we have our data for now that we have a method of setting the data and getting the data in our app, we can set the data instead of logging it. So we get our age data, get the data, and now we want to put that information inside our age data information. So we can just do set age data and then the data, which is right here. So cool, that should be working. And then we'll do the same thing for gender. So set gender data and then data. And then we're gonna make one more for the nationality. So we just call it fetch nationality, and so, all right, make the URL equal to, and then let me get the nationality one as well. So it's right here. Oh, not that one, this one. And we'll copy it. And then once again, we're going to put the current input here instead of Michael. Current input. Awesome. So now we're going to fetch it. And then our response going to be equal to response.json. Our data. Set that's data. Cool. All right. So we have all of our functions for fetching the data. Now I'm just going to simplify it and just put everything inside of a get data function. So we can just call this and it will get all the data at once that we need. All right, so fetch age, fetch gender, and then fetch nationality. Cool. So we're going to want to fetch this data when we click this button, right? So we're gonna add a function to our button called a parameter called onClick, and then we're gonna use the curly braces. I'm gonna do an arrow function here, and then we can, oh my goodness, what's happening? Then we can actually call our get data when we click it. All right, so just as a little proof of concepts for like knowing that our button has been pressed, I'm just gonna add I have been pressed the button so we know that it's working, and then I'm gonna save, inspect, console, and then click fetch. So it says it's been pressed, so cool, we know it's working. So now we can just exit out of that page. So our main file is pretty much almost done. We just need a way to navigate our user to the results page once the information has been fetched. So what we can do now is I'm just gonna get rid of that, and I'm gonna import use navigate from React router DOM, and we're gonna need to install React router DOM as well because it doesn't know what that is yet. So we have to npm install it. So just gonna end our React app here, Control C, and I'm gonna npm I React router DOM. All right, awesome. So I'm just gonna start this back up. All right, so we're back in our app, and now we're going to want to get a reference to our navigation. So I'm just going to make a variable, call it navigate, and it'll be equal to use navigate. All right. So we're going to want to navigate only after our last method has finished fetching its information. Because if we try to navigate before it's finished fetching, our page isn't going to have the proper data to display to the user. So we're going to so since we're calling fetch nationality last, it's just how I do it. I just add a dot finally. And on the finally, we're just going to navigate do the results, flash results, which we haven't actually made yet. But if we, all right, so our page is going to be white because we actually have to do a little bit more setup when we're using a navigate, or when we're using React Router DOM. We have to set up our app to handle it. So we're gonna head back to our index.js, and I'm just going to space this out a bit more. We're going to have to wrap our app in a browser router. So we're going to import browser router from React Router.dom, and then we'll just wrap this in it. So do browser router, and we'll just put app in between this. All right, so as you can see, the page is working again already, which is cool. And if we type in my name, so hello, it's not actually going to navigate yet because we haven't set up our results page, and it doesn't know how to navigate to something that's not there. So first thing that we're going to do is make our results. So we're going to make a new file, call it results.js, and we're going to once again import React from React. We're going to import use navigate again. We're importing use navigate again because I'm gonna have a back button on the page that will allow us to go back. All right, so export default function results, and we're gonna return. So return, and then we're going to want to have a container here, and then we're gonna have a section, and then we're gonna have a title, and then our title is going to be the actual name. So I'm just gonna put name here for now. I'll just leave it as name, and then we're going to want to have another title for the predictions. So just call this text, and we're gonna make the text centered for both of these as well. So as text centered, as text centered. All right, and we'll just put predictions here. All right, before I go any further, I want to actually get our page set up so we can see it as we work on it. So have all the basics here that we need. And now I'm going to go back to our app.js. And we're going to want to import two new things. So we're going to import, oh dear. We're going to import route and routes from our React Router DOM. And so we're going to surround our divider with the routes. So put routes here, and now we need to actually tell our routes which component is to which address, basically. So just going to have all right, so we have our component surrounded by the routes, and now we actually need to reference the path for the route. So we're gonna have a route path equals, and then since this is our main, we're just going to have a slash, and then we're gonna set our element equal to the component. So just do this, and we have a little error here. All right, we need to finish our route, so just add we just do a slash at the end to finish it. Okay, cool. And now we can basically just copy this. I'm just gonna copy it. And at the top here, I'm gonna import a new component. Import results from /components results. Cool, so now we can use that here. So we're just gonna put results in, and then we're gonna make this /results instead. All right, so now that we've got our results page, or our results page set up, basically we can just fetch, and then it will take us to our page because it takes us to /results once we click the fetch button. Awesome. So we can go back to results now so we can continue working on it. And we're going to, first we're just going to pass in the state again like we did in the main component. So I can type holy. So states, pass that in. And now, once again, we're going to want to get a reference to our objects. So I'm just going to make, now we're accessing the getters instead of the setters, because we don't need the setters in our results, because we're not going to be setting any data once we get the results. We're just going to be displaying it. So we'll have an age data, and then we'll have a gender data, state.gender data, and then we're going to have our nat data, state.nat data. Okay, awesome. And then we also need to get our navigate as well. So like in main, we'll just add a navigate and set use navigate to null. Alright, actually, we don't need to set it to null. We just leave it. Okay, awesome. So moving along, now that we have our age data, we can actually get a reference to it. So I'm gonna just pull up this. This makes sense. So try me. So we have our data, and we can access it using name, age, or count. So I'm gonna be using name in this case to just access the name of the person we fetched. So I'm just gonna age data name. And now if we go back, hit save. It's going to be empty because we haven't fetched any data in this case. But if we go back here and we type Bob, quick fetch, now we have Bob as the name because it fetched the data for Bob and displays his name. Great. So next thing I'm going to do is make some columns for us to use. So I'm just going to make columns, and then we'll add a column, and then we'll add a subtitle, and we'll give it has text centered, and we're going to get the age. So can just type age, and then our age data dot age, and then we can get the count as well. I think the count is the amount of people it has to compare for the data set. That's what I've gathered from the data. It doesn't actually say what it is, so that's what I'm assuming it is. So click subtitle, and then it will say set of, and then the age data dot count. So if we hit save, we have our age, and then we have set of 39743. Awesome. So we just want to make this text centered as well. All right. Looks good, looks good. And then we're gonna make a second column. And this one's gonna be for our gender. So make another subtitle. And then make it gender. And then now we can access our gender data. So let me just go back. Genderize. Try me. So as you can see, this is all the data we can access from the API we pulled from. I'm only going to be showing the gender and then the probability. So we have our gender data right here. So our gender, and then our gender data dot gender. Now if we go back and hit save, now we can see that the gender being displayed is a male. So cool, it's working. I'm just gonna make the text centered here as well. All right. And then we're gonna add a probability as well. So dot subtitle has text centered, and then probability. It's gender data dot probability. All right, so now we have the probability as well. Okay, moving along, probably guess we're gonna make another column, and then we're gonna make another subtitle, and then we'll make the has text centered, And then we'll just add a nationality here and just do nat data. And then we can go and check what kind of data we can pull from this. So we have the name, the country ID, probability. So it gives us 3 different countries. Looks like it's in order of most likely to least likely. So we're just going to want to access the first country here. So we can actually do that from treating this like an array. So we can do net data dot country. So we enter the country, and then the country is the array. So we're just gonna put a 0 there. Dot country ID. All right, and then we want to just add a probability for the nationality. So we're just gonna make another subtitle, and then as text centered, and then probability, and then we're just gonna math around this probability because it's a little crazy looking. So just gonna pass in the nat data dot country, which country is the first one, and then probability, and then we're gonna round it to the nearest 10th or 100th, I mean, and just put a slash out of 1. All right, so you can see the probability is 0.09 out of 1. So that's working. And I'm just gonna add a /1 here as well. Or no, not here. We're gonna add one here. All right, great. Oh, okay. And the reason it's centered like that is because I had it minimized. So as you can see, it properly scales now with the browser. Awesome stuff. Okay. Finally, we're just gonna add another section after our column. So just add a section, and we're gonna add a new button like the last one. We're gonna have an on click, and then when we click this button, we're just going to navigate the user back to the home page. So I could do it again, and then we'll have a class name equals to button is primary and is full width. And then we'll just put this back. And we need to make this in the outside of the column, actually, or outside the columns. So just move this out 1. Oh, out 1. There we go. Let me just fix that real quick. Okay, so we have this back button, and it takes us back. All right, so that pretty much covers everything in the app. We can see now that if we type in the name Daniel and click fetch, we get some information and the predictions of what the APIs think Daniel to be. So thinks he's 44 out of the set, that he's male, the probability that he's male, and the nationality as well. And we can just try a few names. So Elizabeth, fetch thinks they're female. So another name, Bob. Did Bob at the start, but yeah, awesome. So I hope you guys enjoyed and were able to learn something from this little video. It's my first tutorial, so sorry it's a little all over the place. Let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything I could have done better in this video, and I'd be happy to do that. I don't know how to end these, but bye.